Good morning. I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche organization with your daily video update for February 7th, 2025. President Trump unleashed a firestorm of criticism and questions in his press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu when he laid out a strategy for Gaza, basically saying that the proposal was for the U.S. to take over Gaza, to own it, to build it into a spectacular, magnificent new area and move the Palestinians out. Now, there are a lot of questions that come up from this, and most of them have been at the expense of President Trump. There's opposition, first of all, from most of the world, especially from the Arab neighbors of Israel. The idea that you're somehow going to move the Palestinians where? To the Arab countries? They've rejected that. They've rejected it repeatedly. Prior to Netanyahu's visit, they held a conference with the leading Arab neighbors of Israel, where they said that the solution to the Palestinian question is a two-state solution, not the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. Now, a second question, is he proposing the deployment of U.S. troops to clean out Hamas and to clean out the Palestinians and to remove the debris? It sounded as though that was what he was saying. He backtracked. The Defense Department said, we're not talking about that, but it's still a question. Who's going to do it? If you leave it to the Israelis, there'll probably be a lot more killing that will continue. Now, the bigger question is what gives the U.S. the right to decide this? The right to decide that 2 million Palestinians have to leave their homes. It's a violation of international law, a violation of treaties, and it also contradicts the vision of international relations that was presented by Trump's Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, in a January 30th interview with Megyn Kelly. Now, this was very interesting, especially considering it's from Marco Rubio. What he said is that, quote, it's not normal for the world to simply have a unipolar order, referring to the idea that the United States runs a rules-based order. Rubio called that an anomaly, and he said that instead we are moving to a multipolar world, which is in keeping with the thinking of most of the rest of the world. The idea, instead of a sole superpower dictating terms to everyone, there would be a consensus among sovereign states before such actions would be taken. So what Rubio said was a rejection of the unipolar idea that's dominated the United States for the last 20 years, going back to the Wolfowitz Doctrine, which basically from the Project for a New American Century said that the United States will be essentially the world dictator, the world empire. This was the policy that was adopted under the presidency of George W. Bush. It's certainly how Obama and Biden operated, even though they didn't say it quite that way. They viewed the United States military power as the ultimate authority in the world. And that's what Blinken meant by a rules-based order. The United States makes the rules and everyone else has to abide by that. Well, this is something that President Trump was critical of. Trump said that we're not going to use the U.S. military to be the policeman of the world. And that was a very popular part of his victory in the 2024 election, that we're going to make sure there's no more war. We're not going to send American young men and women into combat. We're not going to spend billions of dollars as a policeman in the world. And then all of a sudden he makes this proposal of American forces cleaning out Gaza and then creating some kind of major development project there. So there's a lot of confusion. And then some of his advisors walked it back, including Waltz, the national security advisor. But then again yesterday, Trump repeated the same thing. So the question is this a bargaining position coming from the art of the deal where you make a proposal, in a sense, an offer that no one can refuse? Well, the problem is that this has unleashed the greater Israel fanatics. because it's seen as a deal to save Netanyahu and to save the idea of Greater Israel. Defense Minister Israel Katz, for example, said plans are being made by the Israeli army to carry out the mass expulsion of Palestinians from Gaza. Now, if this is actually done, it will lead to a regional explosion. The only way to get a lot of the Palestinians out will be by force at the point of a gun. And so the question is that what the Israelis are planning? Now, of course, it's clear that Netanyahu wants to continue a situation of military conflict to avoid having to deal with the problems that were unleashed by failures of his government to secure Israel, to know in advance that an attack was planned on October 7th, to be unprepared for such an attack, and then to drag on the negotiations for so long that many of the Israeli hostages ended up dead. Now, what Trump said to complete his proposal is that he will make Gaza one of the greatest and most spectacular developments of its kind on earth. Now, what does he mean by that? It could mean luxury real estate, which is pretty much what his son-in-law Jared Kushner proposed initially. It could mean casinos. Remember Miriam Adelson, whose husband Sheldon Adelson was one of the largest casino operators in the world. The Adelsons were huge funders of Trump's 2016, 2020, and then Miriam Adelson in the 2024 campaign. So is that what they're talking about? Well, there is a better option to make Gaza not only livable, but a place for secure, durable peace. And that's the Oasis plan. And we've been talking about that. And I hope you've taken the time to look at the video we've attached, because the question is, ultimately, what is the philosophical basis of MAGA, the Make America Great Again? Trump keeps talking about a manufacturing power, a revival or a renaissance of manufacturing, meaning physical economy. Well, that's good. That's what is necessary. But at the same time, if you start mixing in such things as Bitcoin speculation, you mix in casinos, entertainment society, that's not physical economy. That's putting the service economy and the monetary system as the basis of your economic policy. And monetarism is the problem that we've had, which is why there's inflation, which is why there's a boom-bust cycle, because it's based on the idea that monetary value is the most important determination of whether an economy is going in the right direction or not, instead of productivity, instead of are you producing more and better quality goods at an increasingly lower price based on technological improvement and gains in productivity. And this is something that President Trump does understand. So why mix things up in a way to bail out Bibi Netanyahu, to put the United States in support of a military operation against the Palestinians, and at the same time to benefit a speculative system? So the Oasis plan has an integrated development concept based on desalination of water, use of nuclear power and other kinds of cheap electricity that can be used both for desalination but also for manufacturing. And this would be part of a connection, a transport connection that would make the Gaza and the Palestinian state a part of a crossroads between Africa, Asia, and Europe. So you have a choice between a speculator's paradise, a Ponzi scheme that would provide wealth in the form of money for a small group of investors, or the economic development of a physical economy which can provide an improved standard of living for a growing population, which is the real basis for a sustainable peace for two states. Now, given that MAGA is essentially a commitment to the physical economic development of sovereign states in collaboration, as opposed to, or you might say healthy competition, as opposed to one side dictating the terms to the other. We're now at a point where we're going to see what the actual definition is going to be. And for the purposes of the LaRouche organization, our fight is for the Oasis plan. And the Oasis plan as coming from a model of physical economy that was the hallmark of the work over many decades of Lyndon LaRouche. So I'm going to be attaching in the description section today a couple of different videos. One is the discussion, the dialogue between Larry Johnson and Helga Zepp-LaRouche from Wednesday, where Larry spoke quite clearly, as did Helga, about the differences between the so-called Trump plan that was presented at the Netanyahu press conference and the Oasis plan of LaRouche. Also, there's a link for the Zoom call for today's International Peace Coalition. It's live at 11 a.m. Eastern. It will be archived later. And the intention of the International Peace Coalition is to pull together people from all areas, from left, right, center, ignoring the designation of left and right and looking at the deeper question, which is the developing incentives for peaceful cooperation among sovereign states. That's the direction we have to go in. So I urge you to watch these videos, think about them, engage in discussion, and join the LaRouche movement. We represent the one force that consistently is intervening on a principled basis, and that principled basis is from the American constitutional tradition.